Carrie Morgan was Cassie Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice.
Cassie for 17 years, but things went sour after she alleged that Diddy beat her with a wooden coat hanger and she signed.
Did Diddy lose all composure? You won't believe what set him off when Carrie Morgan, Cassie's best friend, joined the stand.
Ventura's former best friend, Carrie Morgan. She described witnessing Combs assaulting Cassie twice. The first time in a home Combs was renting in the Hollywood Hills. Morgan testified that, quote, "I saw him push her. I'm pretty sure he hit her." The second time allegedly happened in Jamaica. Morgan says they were in the bar area of a home when, quote, "I heard her screaming." She recalled guttural, terrifying screams. Combs faces the possibility of life in prison if convicted. He's pleaded not guilty and has...
Courtroom was humming with whispered discussions and the sound of shifting papers as everyone settled down for what they believed would be simply another day in court. The atmosphere wasn't exactly tense yet, but there was an evident heaviness in the air. Diddy sat at his table, composed, leaning back slightly in his chair. His legal team sat alongside him, flicking over notes and seeming assured, as if they had the day mapped out. The journalists stationed behind the courthouse barricades muttered between themselves, cameras ready to record anything slightly fascinating. And then, to everyone's astonishment, Carrie Morgan strolled in. That's when everything started to shift. Carrie wasn't someone most of the public had been anticipating. Certainly her name had come up a few times, but few individuals anticipated the key position she would play in this case. Cassie's best buddy Carrie appeared calm, but resolute. As she on the stand, the prosecution, plainly prepared, embraced her warmly, while Diddy's side exchanged glances that could only be described as anxious. Diddy's stare followed her every movement, his formerly relaxed body language slowly stiffening. The tone of the room turned as Carrie was sworn in, and any confidence Diddy had showed earlier started to waver. At first, it wasn't evident to everyone in the courtroom that Diddy was unraveling. He's a man famed for holding his composure in high-pressure situations. Yet those watching him attentively began to pick up on the subtle signals. His jaw tightened. He leaned forward, hands clasped together, his gaze tightening as Carrie began speaking. It didn't take long before the tension became palpable. Witnesses present later recounted the situation as electrifying, with the entire courtroom waiting on Carr's comments, and more notably, Diddy's reaction. And then it happened. Carrie remarked something that poked a nerve. Information from her testimony. Startling personal details flowed forth like fuel on a fire. Diddy slammed his hand down on the table, his words shattering through the otherwise calm courtroom as he interrupted her testimony. From media channels characterized him as visibly irritated with on journalists, saying, "It was as if he couldn't hold back another second." Security guards in the room tensed up, visibly prepared to step in if needed, while the judge repeatedly called for order. But Diddy's scream wasn't simply a reaction. It was a full moment of unraveling. He gestured at Carrie, tossing his head as he growled angrily to his legal team. His demeanor a stark contrast to the calm picture he'd worked so hard to maintain. Witnesses later spoke to reporters, describing the mayhem. You could hear a pin drop 1 second, and the next, it seemed like the entire place was on edge. Individuals were truly frightened. One observer commented. Another court insider claimed that even Diddy's lawyers were caught off guard, attempting to calm him down. Cameras outside the courthouse caught a bustle of action during the interval that followed, with reporters yelling to put together what had transpired. But the fundamental question looming over the group was simply, what did Carrie Morgan say that shattered Diddy's composure so utterly? Whatever was in her testimony clearly had weight enough to crack one. Among the music industry's most unshakable characters, to understand Diddy's reaction, we need to know who Carrie Morgan is and why her words have so much power. In this case, Carrie Morgan was on the stand. That was Cassie Ventura's ex-best buddy. What did Carrie say? Happened after that incident. Cassie Ventura left the Intercontinental Hotel, walked back to her flat, her house, and there was Carrie Morgan waiting. She remarked immediately. She noticed the black eye that Ventura had sworn Comolmes gave her after the freak-off grew violent, and that the whole reason why then the second assault in the hallway happened. And then Carrie Morgan said about a half hour later, Sean Combs started beating on the door. With a hammer. He was not let in, but she stated she heard him yelling. Finally, summoned some of Cole's staff members to attempt to get him to leave. Cops were called, but Cassie Ventura stated and Carrie Morgan supported this up that nothing ever came of it because Cassie Ventura refused to say anything about Sean Combs and what happened to her Aaron. I had to ask you, since Combs was seated 2 feet away from Don Richard and Carrie Morgan in court today, how did he respond to seeing them and hearing all of this? He's been an attentive listener. In certain circumstances he would shake his head or nod along or speak with his lawyers, scribbling a lot of notes. This was a key part of the testimony because it made a turn Eva the jury had heard from Cassie Ventura directly about, in very vivid terms, a lot of the sex acts. But the prosecution's overall case is that she was coerced into that sex because of the violence, the kind of violence that both Don Richard and Carrie Morgan said they observed. Now the defense says there are other causes for the violence: jealousy, drugs didn't having anything to do with coercing her into sex. But the prosecutors want the jury to hear these stories to say that Cassie Ventura was not only telling the truth about being beat up, but that she had motive to later go along with Sean Combs's sexual demands. Carrie Morgan might not be a household name, but in this case, she's become one of the most critical voices as Cassie's best friend. Carrie has come forward not just to support her, but as a vital witness. Her testimony might change everything. You have to ask, what does she know that others don't? What makes her statements so profound that they shook Diddy to his core? They aren't just questions folks are asking out of curiosity. They're crucial to understanding why this trial has taken such a drastic swing. Let's rewind a bit. Carrie Morgan and Cassie go way back, long before the cameras in the courtroom. By all accounts, their bond is the kind that's founded on years of trust and shared experiences. Individuals who were close to both ladies have described Carrie as extremely loyal to Cassie, someone who stood by her side through thick and thin. And why does that matter? Because if anyone has been around long enough to see what happened on behind closed doors, it's Carrie. Her proximity to Cassie over the years causes her testimony not simply another statement, but a first-hand account of what Cassie faced. Carr's believability isn't just connected to her long-standing bond with Cassie. She's also someone who's been regarded as considerate, measured, and not the sort to say unless she's totally sure of her statements. A source close to the case even described her as someone who doesn't do drama, which makes her decision to take the stand all the more fascinating. She wasn't just dragged into the spotlight reluctantly. She stood forward knowing full well the importance of her role in exposing the truth. But let's address the greater question: what does Carrie actually know? According to reports, Carr's testimony isn't based on hearsay or hazy observations. She claims to have directly witnessed or been informed about significant occasions of abuse during Cassie's rocky connection with Diddy. One media outlet defined her as the piece of the puzzle no one saw come, underlining how much weight her remarks have in this trial. Although the precise facts of her claims weren't instantly shared before her testimony, what's evident is that she's not holding back. She supposedly provided information onto patterns of control, manipulation, and acts of injury that, if proven, might substantially change the case in Cassie's favor. What also sets Carrie distinct is her courage to stand up to someone as powerful and prominent as Diddy. It's not tricky to go against a global superstar in a public courtroom. Practically everyone watching the case has commented on the sheer guts it takes to stand up, especially knowing the vast legal resources Diddy has at his disposal. This isn't someone who's looking for attention. Carr's statement implies she's committed to pursue justice for her buddy, regardless of the personal cost, and it makes her testimony impossible to reject. So here's where we are. Carrie Morgan has hinted at details that no one else could disclose, details that portray a frightening picture of what allegedly went on. But the issue remains, what did she truly say on the stand that sent shockwaves through the courtroom? That's the bit nobody saw coming, and trust me, the claims are explosive. Let's go down exactly what was.